public comment and probably thin out the crowd, or otherwise it's going to get very hot in here very fast. We have a lot of speakers today. Everybody gets 2 minutes and we'll have to keep it to that particular, we've got a stack. So thanks for joining us. It's the greatest time in the city right now. I know you all are enjoying the parks. I got a couple of calls over the weekend. What's going on at this park? What's going on at that park? And I am always trying to keep up with what's going on in the parks. I'm like, I don't think there's anything going on in the park. And sure enough, it's just people hanging out in the parks. So a lot of people in the parks. It's a really exciting time of year. So we'll try to get folks out of here so you can get back to the parks. But first up, we've got Dave Cho, and then we have Bill Chu following him. Dave, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Speed of life of.
Morning.
Morning. Hi, my name is Dave Cho. I wanted to speak about the Sawyer Point pickleball court. I guess it's basically they're trying to reconfigured it for an professional pickleball tournament this last weekend, which was very successful. And the plan is to paint back the lines and restore the 2 tennis courts that were removed to enable the facilitating that tournament going forward. And just to be quite honest, tennis isn't as popular as pickleball. And it seems like it'd be a waste of money to undo all the work that was done to create 4 more pickleball courts that will enable more pickleball members, Cincinnati pickleball players to enjoy, which has been recognized as one of the best outdoor pickleball facilities in the Midwest. And there are just so many ripple effects of being able to have more people playing there, getting more exposure, being able to host more tournaments. So there's economic effects, there's social and community benefits in terms of, one, having more players less frustrated waiting to play. And when if they would see 3 tennis courts not being used, if you're a pickleball person or just a normal person walking by, you'd say, there's a lot of people playing pickleball. There's nobody playing tennis. Why don't they have more pickleball courts so that more people can play?
Don't these courts have both lines on them? Both sets of lines?
They do, but then there is the process of you've got to take down the nets, you've got to set up nets. Whereas if they're already in place, it's easier to facilitate play on those courts. And the fact is,
Sorry, that's 2 minutes.
We've got to move on, Dave. Thank you so much for coming. Bill, you're up. And then next up is David Ostrander.
Hi, I'm Bill Chu, and I'd like to ask you guys to consider the conversion of tennis courts into pickleball courts, but I'm going to approach it from an economic side. The APP is at risk if we don't have more pickleball courts. The APP last year in 2023 had 900 players, 3,600 overnight room nights sold, almost 9,000 visitor days, with a $3.2 million economic impact to Cincinnati. That's significant. Tennis doesn't bring anything in from that facility. There was an 11% increase in players this year, with I think even more visitors this year than last year. So the economic impact is fairly significant for this Sawyer Point. So consider the chambermaids. They made extra money from that 4,000 room nights sold. Uber drivers. There were probably hundreds and hundreds of Uber drivers that made more money. To the waiters and waitresses that had extra tips. We hosted a pro and her mom. They walked from the courts to Nada. They tipped the waiter or waitress there. They took at least 5 Uber drives. And so that is a huge, huge benefit to Cincinnati that would be at risk if there's not enough courts to host a pro tournament. So I'd like to have you consider the economic side of your decision. So thank you. And I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Bill. All right, David Ostrander.
Pickleball central right now. And yeah, I'm also speaking in favor of that. I guess our request is also to, can we delay the repainting of the courts while this is further looked into or discussed or whatnot, if that so moves you. One thing about pickleball, it has a reputation to be an older person's sport. While at certain times they might be true, that's actually not factually true. Average median age for players is 35. And if you're there during the evening, Monday through Friday nights, you'll see so many young people at the courts playing and whatnot. Anecdotally now for me, I've talked to many people, tennis players, and now they're playing pickleball. And one aspect that came up before is how social it is. It's a development of community because I know I can always show up and get a game. And so with the courts being dedicated for pickleball only, that'll help facilitate getting more people in and out and stuff. Because what happens at night, we get 170, 200 people playing at one time. We're going 4 on, 4 off, which means you get out to play a game, play one game, now you're coming off again and waiting again, type of things like that, where some more courts will help again, ease that burden a bit and whatnot. One other thing too, there are 77 tennis courts at 16 facilities within 5 miles of Sawyer Point. And so this is for me, a data-driven type decision or whatnot in order to, embrace this or whatnot. So we really enjoy it. I remember what the courts were like before. It was before the pickleball courts were put in, with just tennis courts and things and whatnot. And anecdotally, again, I've met so many people from out of town who've heard about these courts and they come here to play pickleball on our courts, like Texas, where it's one of the best facilities in the Midwest, and it's been publicized as such. And I just can't tell you, I work on most weekends. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, we've got Brett Lyons and then Joshua Musalia. Hope that was right.
Hey, thank you so much. Like all the other people before me.
Nice sweatshirt.
Oh, thank you so much. Hopefully we can pour some sugar on this topic. Here to speak about the pickleball as well. I am maybe so far you've seen a younger person who is in the pickleball community. I had 2 knee surgeries, former tennis player. To his point, so many places around the city you can play tennis. We are really looking forward to be, and right now we are, the foremost pickleball location in the Midwest. We have tournaments upcoming. We just had a major tournament this last weekend. This is also an opportunity where we're actually not asking you to do anything. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for that. The APP is going to cover the painting when we paint it. We're just asking maybe till the end of this summer. Let's take a look at it. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at how many people. Let's see how many people are waiting to play tennis. Usually not that many. We're not asking this to be, hey, do this, it's done, we never have to talk about it again. We just want to the end of the summer. We just want a time that we can see the numbers, look at it, and see. We never see any people waiting for tennis. To Dave's point, 77 locations within 5 miles of where Sawyer Point is. We don't have that for pickleball. When we're waiting to play pickleball, that's all. We have to wait. If you show up and there's people on tennis courts, okay, well, we can go to this other place and stuff like that. I get the point that you were saying that some of those tennis courts don't have lines. Some of the tennis courts do have lines painted in on that. The problem is if someone who plays the sport a lot like me, it's kind of hard to see because of just different lines for tennis, all that type of stuff like that. We really, really like the extra courts. It helps bring more people in because they're not weights, and we're not losing people going out to Middletown or going to Lunkin or going to pay, at a private club. Tennis has been around for a long time. I still do love tennis, but I feel like right now we're in the pickleball boom and we should grasp that and not push it to the side like a lot of things happen, and I think it's just my time. Thank you so much.
Brett, Joshua. Good morning.
Good morning. Here to support the football stuff. I'm just gonna speak on a personal side. I moved to Cincinnati about a year ago from Lexington. I'm a
Welcome.
physician. Thank you so much. And pickleball was something that I just started playing, and I heard about Sawyer Point as a place where I really ended up making a lot of friends. I was able to build community. I just wanted Sawyer Point, as some of my colleagues had mentioned, and just play the game. I didn't know anyone. And by now, a year later, I know several people who I play with consistently. It is the only place that we can play outdoor pickleball pretty much for free. A lot of other places you have to pay. And as a resident physician, I don't have a lot of money. And so unfortunately, I don't get a chance to be able to pay for these things. It is really unfortunate when you go at 5 p.m. and you have to wait behind 20+ paddles of people to play, getting one game every 20 minutes, it's frustrating. You're sitting there waiting to play the game that you really enjoy. And for me, I had to like switch everything over to go at 8 p.m., which is late, to only play a few more games. And so I highly encourage y'all to just consider it. It would be awesome if we could have these additional courts for additional players to play. As the individual was before we mentioned, those lines really hard to see if they're not painted for outdoor pickleball. And so please keep the courts as they are and let us enjoy playing it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've got Malcolm Montgomery, and then we have David Logan. So we've gotten through the pickleball comments. Now we move on to the dog park. Thank you for joining us today.
I love pickleball too.
Welcome, Malcolm.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you, and thank you for your service to the community on this. It's not always easy. And one of the decisions that I'm concerned about is the dog park in Burnett Woods, because there is so much community opposition to it. And for this board to proceed to carry on a project that has momentum from the previous leadership, but does not really reflect what the community is asking for and saying, I think is going to undermine the support that this board gets and needs to have to do its job from the community. So looking past the pros and cons of that particular issue, if you proceed along this path, it's going to be hard to get the kind of support that you need to go to proceed with all the other important projects that this board undertakes. This is extremely divisive in the community. We are still healing from the arguments that we had over the CCAC and the canoe school and those things in Burnett Woods. But the one consistent theme is that people value Burnett Woods and the parks for many things other than things like dog parks or the various kind of restaurant ideas, entertainment ideas, and so forth. In these times, environmental education, ecological education are the most important missions of the park. And if you look at what's happening in the world and country with the environment, it reflects a failure of our society to teach kids that ecology is this whole system we're all part of and that we have to take care of it. And that's one of the lessons that people like your naturalists teach kids in the parks. So thank you again for your service. I hope you will reconsider this proposal for the dog park in Burnett Woods and let it just go its way as an item discussed and needs to just.
Sorry, that's fine.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we've got David, then Cynthia, then Rachel.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is David Logan, and I'm a retired teacher and administrator, and probably more important, I'm a homeowner on Bishop Street on the eastern edge of the park. And I'm speaking against the dog park, and other people can make these science points better than I can. It's not my background, but synthetic turf does contain phthalates. Phthalates is the only word I know that starts with a PHTH, so it's hard to pronounce. And I know that it has, if I'm looking it up, anybody can look it up. It's not a secret. It has the power to affect the endocrine system of human beings, liver, kidneys, reproductive organs. And if it can affect us mammals, surely a small dog or even a big dog is that a lot closer to the synthetic turf than we are. And they might be more affected by this stuff than we are, I should think. And I think it might be a concern for the safety of the animals as well as the people. And I think the other thing I want to say is that on the kind of the vaguer philosophical point, we've got to, in this country, in this county, in this city, we've got always a restless urge to develop stuff. You know, we think that according to the real estate guys, the H&B, the highest and best use of anything is that which produces the most money per square foot. And I know this is not a money-making project, but it does serve the convenience and the community purpose of the dog park advocates. But surely there's another way the dog park advocates could get together without taking another piece of the park. It's embarrassing to have to say to the park board, let's preserve the park. You know, thank God for our city fathers that created the park system. It's not necessary always to be thinking we got to find something else to do with this because it looks like empty space. It's not empty space. It's teeming with life. And the fact that I can walk around the edge of it or walk into it means that I'm using it too. My mind is using it for space and for time. Even when I'm not walking around it or walking into it, I'm using it. My mind is using it because I know it's there. Even when I'm in another country, I'm using Burnet Woods because I know
Sorry, that's
it's there.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming.
All right,
All right, Cynthia Berry McCarthy and then Rachel Wells. Welcome back, Cynthia. I see you've given us some.
It's also happening. Black and brownly, with the lovely bands from the old forest to the trail slides and the park with me, the adorable villagers off out their lawn space, protected by close your back face, your teeth is ocean, a pleasant valley. The park was made, you and me. It's faithful fiction, the fool I see. Tear it out now, improve some gray space, you build your dog a run. This park was made, you and me. There's always no one left of our green earth. What must we show? Improve and straight work, we planted valley, thrive in nature. This part was made and me. I hope in years hence, we sit on green grass, not a hot mess, but we like being fast. It's not too late now, to play our action. This part was made and me. Stop and listen, the opposition, 85% share. Our position, you save our green space, should be your mission. This park was made and me. Burnout was made and me. Blessed dog was made and me. Wonderful.
Cynthia, I'm never gonna forget you. Never. Thank you, Rachel. Welcome back.
I'm a neighbor to Burnout Woods, and I'm here again to ask you to stop the Burnout Woods Dog Park project. That project, like the Denora Park proposal that was rejected 3 years ago, is too near residences and eliminates important green space. The space now designated for the project is loved. It is used, it already has a purpose. It's also one of the few areas of the park that isn't dedicated to another purpose or suffering from decades of neglect. Turning the space into a dog park takes something away from people. It reserves the best open space in the park for the exclusive use of pets. This board rejected the prior Donor Park proposal because immediate neighbors were opposed, even though the project had majority support in the community over there. If the project wasn't right for Denora Park neighbors, then it isn't right for Burnout Woods neighbors. Why are we being treated so differently? Why is our everyday experience worth less than Denora Park neighbors? I realize that some of you may feel that this board previously made a promise to proponents, but you are not beholden to promises that other people made. If you continue to let this project proceed, it becomes your legacy. The fact that it will destroy the main entrance of Burnout Woods during its 150th birthday celebrations will become your legacy. The way that neighbors and thousands of park stakeholders have been discarded, dismissed, and ignored becomes your legacy. The disparate treatment between single-family homeowners around Dunner Park and the multifamily residents around Burnout Woods becomes your legacy. These are our homes. We don't have a private green space. We rely on parks. Parks are incredibly important to us. Please be a good neighbor and consider how your actions affect us too.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment today. Pickleballers, we are always open for a song. So next time. All right, let's get on to business. We've got approval of the April 18th minutes. Thank you, Kate, for the succinct minutes, which have presented what we discussed and what we decided. May I have a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. We've got guest today, Rick Riley, speaking on behalf of River Roots. And Kelly, hi Kelly, how are you? Nice to see you. Welcome. We're excited to hear about this. By the way, does anybody think it's like 90 degrees in here or is it just me?
Jenny's on it.
Cooking, we're cooking.
He's cooking.
It might
Freeze
cool
or
off
fry,
now that
that's
we've cleared out.
It'll shift dramatically the other way. We'll manage.
Thanks for the invitation. We're going to be connected at HIP on this event with Jason and his staff, so we're glad to give you an update. About a year ago, Elizabeth Pierce was put on the Ohio 250 Commission to come up with signature events to celebrate Ohio's role in the nation's growth. So Kelly and I out to lunch and said, hey, you guys have your birthdays. Back in '88, you did it for the city. Why don't you socialize one for America on its in 2026? So we have been out in the streets quietly for the last year, collecting a team of experts that have really curated this event, and we've made enough progress with the corporate community to go ahead and announce this publicly last week. So we're going to give you a real quick update and then talk about how we can collaborate. So first of all, this is an official event of Ohio 250 Commission. Rob Portman, who's one of our chairpersons, is going to try to get this on the National Commission's calendar event. So it'd be the kickoff event October 25 for the nation's party on the 26th. Kentucky 250 also has embraced this as well. The next slide pretty much talks about why Cincinnati. We think we have the best riverfront in the country. It's the world-class riverfront. If you've been to any other city, this is the place. And thanks to all the work that you've been doing. And we think our location can attract other cities to be a part of this national celebration. So it's in Cincinnati, but it's not Cincinnati centered. There's 10 riverboats coming from 8 different cities from all these rivers. The mayors have been contacted about ways they can theme the boats and put their cultural tourism assets in a River Expo tent. So it can be, again, elevated as this is a brand that America needs to know about. This is the part of the country you need to know about, instead of just the Great Lakes and the Pacific Northwest. And the two major themes are the freedom journey, the whole migration of people to freedom across the River Jordan, and the migration of immigrants down the Ohio River, waves of people from all over the world that actually developed the West through here, and the industrial development, cultural development occurred. So that's what this event really captures. Our goal, real quickly, on the next slide, pretty straightforward. We're using this as an excuse to have a party, but also get people mobilized to do some things in the city that the world needs to know about. We're going to be promoting our brand with the elements of this event, working with both Convention and Visitors Bureau to really promote heritage tourism. You know, the Chamber of Commerce is promoting culture as a major economic development tool. And there's heritage tourism too as a part of that formula. And there's some very, very specific tours we're going to be organizing with them to bring people from around the world to this part of the country. This event is built on the multicultural heritage. You have programming, music, education programs will really elevate that. Kelly's going to give you a good update.
Next slide. So also, you know, we want to celebrate all of the people that came to this region, including the indigenous people. Now that we have our new UNESCO World Heritage Site, it's another asset of our region that connects to that cultural tourism piece.
Wait, what is the UNESCO World Heritage Site?
So this past year, there's 3 sites that now put on the UNESCO World Heritage.
UNESCO, yeah,
list.
yes.
It's the Chillicothe Earth Mounds, the Fort Ancient Mounds,
Okay,
the effigy, the serpent effigy.
okay, got it.
So all those-
Got it.
It's total.
Gotcha.
That's all right.
They've
Got it.
got it finally designated, which will attract, millions of people to this. region.
It's only the 30th in the United States. So it's really big. No, there's nothing close by here for that. So again, back to Elizabeth Pierce, we toured the museum center with her. In addition to the freedom journey that Rick talked about, the Freedom Center, the role the river played in our freedom, we also have this whole roots. What else happened to us? So she pulled out the drawer and we looked into geography, the topography, the geology, the first corn, the first makers of growing citizens here from an indigenous people perspective. We will also be telling those stories as we take things off of the walls of the museum and put them in the hallways of our community through digital activation and also through music, which is the major feature of our event. So our event is a nationally recognized combination of emerging artists and national. We have a rising tide. We want to partner with people even in this room of bringing regional artists together with national artists. The Dessner boys, Aaron and Bryce, who are Cincinnatians from the National, have agreed to be our co-curator artistic directors for the event, and they'll be partnering with everyone here as we look at building up the region of the music celebration. We also are partnering with the Cincinnati Black Music Walk of Fame to tell our local story, another way to showcase highlights in Smale and the partnership between the county and parks. So I think one of the most exciting things is going to be our gospel revival. We're working to actually have on Sunday morning a gospel revival, kind of like a competition where there'll be scores of churches and gospel singers and organizations coming together to compete on the stage. I'm going to tell the story of how music came from the river, from the early drum beats from Africa all the way up through hip hop today. All of those genres of music will be celebrated at our event. On the next slide, besides the music cap and telling the story, because everyone has a great story to tell, on our next slide is our cultural tourism piece that Rick talked about. We want to highlight that freedom journey, turning it into a digital application. We also want to highlight our Riverwalk heritage that Rick and I did back in 1988 with the Bicentennial Commission, when I was the design director and he was the executive director. We have a 3.5-mile walk connected between Ohio and Kentucky that tells a story of our region from Tecumseh to John Roebling. And those stories are forgotten as they went out of print. So we want to bring that to life now through digital. Even in Smale does not have all of the stories told in a digital way as a tour that you could take. So we want to elevate that, and we're partnering with the Parks Foundation as well as the Parksville to tell the story for the first time. Obviously, we have exhibits and tourism package and all kinds of things that we come together to tell the story throughout the region. On the next slide, besides the multicultural heritage and education piece, we have cuisine. So this will not be the traditional kind of burgers and brats and funnel cakes. We want to have celebrity chefs. So Paul Sturkey, the renowned chef from Kroger Innovation, is partnering with us to bring celebrity chefs from all the river cities. So we have really unique pairings. Beer, bourbon, and bites will be uniquely flavored and celebrated by the artisans of the cultural curators on the food side here. So we think it'll be really great to showcase, again, local food trucks, small minority and women-owned businesses. We have a big focus on engagement and inclusion, and we will be elevating, again, that rising tide, bringing in national and locating and lifting up our regional together. So we have a continuous celebration of those. So I think the themes, the stories, the cuisine will all come together to celebrate this event over the 4 days on our riverfronts. On the next slide, Rick's going to talk a little bit about sponsorship. I think we're almost out of time.
So real quickly, we're raising money for this event by providing different levels for activation. So we have a title sponsor. We have 8 zone sponsors. If you go to the next slide, each of these zones on both sides of the river will be themed like King's Zone. When you walk into the zone, there's an entrance that says, Kroger. There's a stage that says Kroger. There's food and entertainment and education. Each of these zones now are hosted by sponsors, and one remaining up there reserving for P&G. So that'll be the end of the sponsorship on that level. And there's other ways we'll be selling charters and all kinds of activities to get smaller companies involved. But you can see this is going to be a massive venue with connections with river taxis, the Purple People Bridge, and people can curate their experience of music or food for a day or several days. The next slide, you can't read, but if you draw your attention to the top right, what 3.5 million is targeted from government. And we have grants into the state of Ohio, Kentucky. And I just want to report to you that our council member meetings are gone really well. And we're asking them to cover the cost of the park rental and Anderson Pavilion and the carousel, so you can be whole with this event, and also police, fire, rescue. So we've met with 6 council members. They're very supportive. We're going to get the rest of them next week. So hopefully you'll see that in the budget for this year or next year. So again, we can be real partners, and this is a plus for you. And that Jason staff is already committed to helping us plan this in a way that's going to achieve their objectives as well. Lastly, we don't need to go through all the uses. This is, like I say, we can keep this deck with you so you can study it. But this is going to be a world-class event by the way we use the resources. And luckily, half of it's from earned income, so it has sustainability. Just as relying on sponsorships, it's relying on people buying tickets for tastings and food coach and merchandise and so forth. Again, we've got a great group of advisors that have really helped us craft this event, but they're going to help us to execute it. Next slide, the rest of the advisors. So all these people are helping us raise money or coming up with music content or program content, and then a planning committee that's now who've been volunteering, the next and last slide that will be used to help execute this as contractors. So we have a 501c3 we set up. We're ready to rock and roll. We appreciate your help, and we hope you can use this deadline like you did the All-Star game. I mean, our parks look great for that big week. So how can we use this as deadline, saying, hey, here's the deferred maintenance on the riverfront that we want to get done by this date. We want to make sure that when we invite the nation and the region here, any area residents down, that it looks in tip-top shape. So
I have to ask, bottom line, what's the budget?
budget $16 million on that slide.
Okay,
Half of it comes from earned income. 3.2 comes from corporations and foundations. 3.5 comes from government. And then the last bit is charter sales and things like that, where companies can actually get something, not just donations. Get to charter a whole boat for your company employees or your clients, et cetera.
Let's not forget about the swag.
and so far, what have you got?
So far we raised 2.5 million in our corporate bucket up there.
Okay.
Towards the 3.5.
So 2.5's in the bank.
Yes, and then foundation proposals are in for the a good balance of the education program. So by the end of this year, we hope to be able to hone in on what we got money for and what we don't, so we can again adjust the budget accordingly. Because the government doesn't come through, then we got to make adjustments. So this year will be the year to define what the final scope of this event is. But we've had really good success in the corporate community because they realize that, hey, we got to get the brand out to the country. We're trying to recruit people to come here and stay here. This is another fun way for people to understand that this region has a real identity as well.
And we love that it's on an off year from Blink as well. So, and the convention center closed, we're gonna be finally filling our hotel rooms and our taxes will all go up as an additional economic development opportunity for the region. Blink, of course, is this year, and then it will be in 26. And we see our event in 25 as the curtain opener for the year of the celebration of America's 250. So we think that timing wise, it creates another blockbuster event, raises our awareness also as well, raises our job opportunities, retention, attraction, showcasing and shining light on this amazing city. And of course, our best in class riverfront.
10 votes is all good on you.
Yeah, the 3 of them are actually steamboats. They're actually still powered by steamboats. The 3 remaining.
And they're nails. Those 10 votes are nails.
Yep.
They all have it. Alan Bernstein is still at it. He knows all those guys, and they're rare to come. So, thank you. Appreciate
Any
it.
questions for
Thank you.
Rick or Kelly? Well, this is very exciting.
Very.
Thank you for bringing this, and I hope we get the slide deck so we can study it a bit more.
Thanks for doing it.
Thank you for your partnership
Yes, thank you.
as well.
Happy to be a part of it. Very.
Very
We're
exciting.
gonna send out to everybody for sure.
Thank you. All right, Joel, where are you? There he is. They're hiding in the back there. Got a back seat to the pickleballers and the duck parkers. What's going on?
Morning, everyone. Thank you.
Morning.
Got 3 action items for you all this morning. I think we can start there, if that's okay. We've reviewed the California Woods hydrological plan design. We had 2 really good proposals, which was awesome. I was glad to see that. One of them was much better. We'll say that. The project approach was miles ahead, and it certainly was within keeping of what we want to do there. A naturalist approach, not just come in and bulldoze a bunch of stuff down. So we are very, very close to finalizing everything for the RFP there, and we are asking you all today to approve up to $300,000 for that design. The outcome of that design will be $1 million worth of CD documents, construction documents to fix the worst $1 million worth of stuff that we have erosion wise in California woods. That could be changing the bridges a little bit, changing potentially where we have energy dissipation in the creek. Could be coming in from the top up by the Trillium Trail and fixing some of that fingers that run down into the main creek that cause a lot of the erosion within the park. So that's the gist of this study, and what they're trying to figure out is how do we best preserve and sustain California woods. It's kind of a pilot study for many, many more that we have to do across the board. As you can guess, Burnett Woods may be one of those. There's several more in the system that we need to do similar things. So this is teaching us kind of how to run these projects along with getting a whole lot of good out of this for California woods. So P&D is recommending that the board approve up to $300,000 for this study. The actual cost we anticipate to be about $286,000 if our preferred client, all the negotiations go well through that. Do you all? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, could you go through again? What was some of the anticipated suggestions from?
There are several places where there's stretches that are either too steep or don't keep with a sinusoidal wave, which is what you really want a stream to do. Those are where you see a ton of erosion right above essentially the bridge right next to Naturalist Center. That bridge right there is there as a break essentially, so that water can't continue to gain momentum. I would assume, Commissioner, that the biggest outcomes of this will be energy dissipation above that, 2 or 3 big changes in the stream, either rerouting the stream, changing the direction of that stream back to what it was essentially to slow all that water down. And coming from above, the Trillium Trail, there's 2 main fingers that run down either side, creatively and on site using logs and lumber to drill piles every 75 or 80 feet of grade down those super steep slopes that are just sloughing off by the foot, using what you have on site there that'll last still 50 or 100 years. So you don't have to come in with a bulldozer, put a bunch of rock up there that you don't have up there. Those will be things. How do you get in there surgically to fix that, slow all of that water down so it's not tearing up everything that's sand down below? As you can see, the creek bed is widening every time we get these floods, which are becoming more prevalent. It continues to saturate that bed, which could cost millions of dollars if we fix that.
Why would it need to be fixed?
The soil is so sandy off of Kellogg Avenue that it just, as the water rises back, like we saw 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was almost up to that road that we fixed 2 years ago. When the water lets out quickly and the river lets down quickly, all of that runs out and then pudding is essentially left when you have that silty and sandy of a content of soil. So California woods is very unique. We have very specific soil conditions that cause it to erode quickly. And the fact that it's at the bottom of the Mill Creek and all of that stuff, draining into the last tributary essentially before the Ohio River, make it a pretty crazy problem, but one that's going to be really fun and interesting to fix.
Interesting.
To the point where, do we even continue to bring folks in off of Kellogg Avenue, or is that not sustainable to try to fix all of that?
That's where I was going. Are we trying to come up with a plan that's protecting, vital roadways or buildings, or what is it we're trying to protect?
Even at a higher level than that, are the roadways and buildings that we have within that the most advantageous for the park? Because we know we're going to have to spend quite a bit of money on the California Woods Nature Center. It serves a lot of children. We know it's the most programmed one, but is it in the right place? And is keeping it in that place causing us to have to do things we wouldn't otherwise do inside of that preserve, like build roads and move things and continue to throw money potentially at that inlet into the river that may just need to go back to being an inlet, find either another way in, restrict pedestrian only to pedestrian access with parking off of that end. Many of those kind of things programmatically will be explored with this too. So how best to preserve and program California woods will both come out of these. At the end of it, I assume there is definitely $1 million worth of erosion stuff that needs to be done just to keep what we have up above the main tributary intact. I assume that will be what they recommend that we do as phase 1. But beyond that, we hope to gain momentum on this project and turn it into even something bigger than it is right now. We have approximately $1.5 million to spend beyond this study in the construction.
Joel, I could add.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Sorry, I worked with Joel on the RFP proposal, and one main impetus for this project was the amount of erosion that we were experiencing in headwater tributaries, where we had massive amounts of sediment coming down, filling up the parking lot beneath. A small fix that has mediated that, but we're still experiencing what looks like the Grand Canyon and California woods in some of these tributaries. As Joel noted, it's glacial till, it moves really easily. The more development that we have upstream, the more influx of stormwater we're getting into the area. These streams have never experienced anything like that. There's no real bed or bank in the tributaries to hold sediment in place. So some of the fixes that we saw in the proposals were exactly what Joel said, using material on site without having to come in and bulldoze forests in those areas. So that was a big consideration for the proposal we selected. We also wrote it in to where they were giving us the data that we needed in order to apply for state and federal grants to do the stream restoration. So this hydrological analysis will give us everything that we need to apply for state funding, especially now that we have CARE in place, to move the project forward, which typically with those, you have to have at least a 25% match. So if we can start with this project, really learn a lot about it in one of our, most precious nature preserves. This will give us the opportunity to potentially use those capital dollars as kind of a revolving loan fund, if you would, for other stream restoration projects that we have, say in All Park and Burnt Woods and California. So.
Absolutely. She said. I did notice certainly that as climate changes, as it always does, climate, the word itself means change. We are experiencing, as you know, more intense storms. We've seen 2 in the past 3 weeks that are essentially like dumping 5-gallon buckets at one time. That is crazy in comparison to what you've seen historically, but we have to prepare for that. California woods is just seeing it first because of that soil condition. So it's very interesting, but it's going to help us solve a whole lot of the big erosion issues we have everywhere in the park system.
Does this contemplated study cover the entirety of the California woods hydrology? Okay.
The water that comes on to those lands. So if you have surrounding things that drain into those water.
We'll just stop at the border of the.
That's right. We're going to model these storms. There's one of the things that stuck out to me in the proposal was the gentleman assigned to run in the hydraulic models, well-known, very good at what he does. And I'm very happy to work with him to see what they come up with and how to best model these things. That's the essence of civil engineering to me and what I love to do. So it's very interesting to work on them on a cool project like that. Furthermore, we really hope to incorporate some natural fixes. We're not just going to come in and put concrete walls in on this. I hated to even put the stacked walls, but that situation kind of called for it because you're over a 90-degree curve. I really hope that we can utilize and continue to utilize live staking with our riprap. So basically, we're going to plug little trees, and Crystal again can make that way more scientific than me, but you take cuttings of trees and place them in between larger stones, riprap, and then that surrounds those stones and turns into tensile strength, very much like rebar and concrete. So utilizing that in an area of very high flooding and those roots then pulling into that bank, specific species, which one, sycamores? Willows, essentially will help bind that and then reduce even further that sandy erosion that we're seeing now. So all of those things we're hoping to study and enact kind of in this project.
Another point too, what we wrote in was the educational potential for creating access points, specific access points for the nature center with educational signage along the way to tell the story. So really looking at it as a holistic project, not just for the engineering and restoration, but also for the education of patrons.
Thank you for the education.
Yeah.
Should we take a motion for this or do you want, okay, we'll take a motion to approve $300,000 California Woods Zoological Plan Design.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, let's go to Avon Woods roof.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, there were 2 bids that were received. Only one we even got to review because the other one wasn't considered responsive. They didn't meet the inclusion goals from what I know. So we didn't even get to see that. However, the other bid was the same folks that bid this project under their term contract, Imbis. They didn't even change their price. The only reason I'm coming back to you all today is because we actually added a $5,000 contingency in reviewing that building, very much as we've been doing with French and we're doing with Gibson House, and many of them we're seeing a little bit of, we're being able to tell where we're going to find erosions, where we're going to find messed up plywood and things underneath of our shingles when we rip off these roofs. So Chris McGee wanted to add a $5,000 contingency so we can take care of those things as we find them, very much like we did when they did the admin roof a couple of years ago. That is the only difference in this, and it's not under the term contract, but it is essentially with the same exact contractor. Very, very confident in their work. They did a Houck House roof a couple of years ago. Imbis is known. They did Alt Parks Pavilion, both restorations. Very well known and good contractor that's going to be good for this project. So P&D is recommending a $75,000 allotment for this project to complete an EPDM roof on Avon Woods. We're doing that instead of shingles, sorry, just because of the proximity to trees and the type of the structure, it lends itself very much to the roof on this. This is an EPDM roof, which is sort of like membrane, a thicker membrane, not shingles. Lasts 50 years plus when you have leaves that close in nature centers. A lot of times that degrades shingles a lot, as you know. So the architects recommended doing this. It's a little more expensive than things we're doing in other places, but for a very specific reason. So it'll last.
Any questions?
I just want to, I'm a big fan of the contingency and up to model from, we are limited as a board by our cadence, and this reduces friction and increases speed and flow. And I'm a big fan of that structure moving forward.
Same.
Thank you, Commissioner. HEDA is actually helping. We're working with purchasing. As you know, we meet with them every 2 weeks. Trying to figure out how we get those contingencies into projects so we don't have to bring back a $3,000 ask to you all. But still keep the, keep the onus on the contractor to do it within price. If I hand them 100, if I said, hey, it really should cost 80,000 like you told me, but we've got 100, they're going to try to spend 100 every time. So having that leeway on Parks' end to manage that while still not having to come back to you all is what we're trying to accomplish now. That is helping me work through the law on that stuff. So hopefully we'll have an update for you and continue to do those things this way.
Great. A motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, Eden Park.
Well, I'm happy that this one's a little better news than I prepared you for last time. I think I told you in the last meeting, it could be, Rich Kohana told me this could be up to $400,000. The bids came back really, really good. The total bid was $1,453,015. DOTE applied for and received a SORTA grant as a part of their design in the amount of $1,127,651. And that left a balance of $325,364, of which Parks had agreed to pay half. So we're coming before you today to ask for $162,682 that we can supply under MOU for our part in the match for this. Jason and I have reviewed the MOU. It is included in your packet. If you all have any questions about that, I'm happy to talk through them. But essentially, that is our part to get this wall stabilized here.
Gets the wall stabilized.
Yes.
And that's the
Better,
like,
way better.
maintenance piece of it. But we always like to look at, of course, how do you improve the experience for users, right? So it would be negative if the wall were to go away, but it's a positive addition. This also includes a big wide sidewalk that folks can bike on or walk on or jog on, walk their dog on, in a way that currently anybody that's walked that sidewalk knows it's not one of the better sidewalks in the city. And so it'll be a real big improvement to the user experience as well.
And the way they're doing this is the drilled pile wall with the rebar cage inside. It's the most minimal invasive to the system. Garrett Diano, our land manager, was out with Rich and their structural engineers as they were designing this, minimizing tree impact. There's very few, if any, maybe 1 or 2 trees that has to be taken as a part of this. And the sidewalk, as Jason mentioned, is going to be way improved from what it is right now. So it's a really, really good project. We asked them early on in the project because we have some guardrail down towards the gazebo that didn't match with everything else that they'd done up towards the crone to include that in the project, and they did. So all of those will be uniform all the way up and around. It's the new 3 2x10 essentially look that you see. You see 1 and then 2 kind of on the guardrail. Just a uniform look that we're doing in most of the parks now. Very, very effective and strong still, and easy to maintain. So that is what you all will see as a part of this as well. Fixing another problem for us in conjunction with just the stabilization of the wall. You all have any questions?
Timing. How fast can it get done?
I believe they will work towards a contract in the next 60 days, and then they're going to be doing this stuff this year. I will confirm that with Rich Kohana, but I believe they're going to work on this year.
Any other questions? I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're on to Glenway.
So, Glenway Park is a park project that we are partnering with our friends at the foundation to improve this neighborhood park, sitting on a former site of a failed water tower, I guess, and East Price Hill. This is a park that hasn't seen a lot of attention in a long time. Last year, we did a big honeysuckle removal that really opened it up. We've heard great things from the neighbors about how open it is, how much safer it is. We see much less negative activity. As I think I've noted to you before, Glenway Park, the benches there by the playground were our #1 needle pickup spot in the entire park system. And we've seen an incredible drop in that since that's happened. just after the honeysuckle was removed, Jenny, Joel, and I walked that loop at the top and found, I think, 20 needles that we picked up just because of removing the honeysuckle, opened that up. I've been there several times since, sometimes with you guys, sometimes with our friends at the foundation. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 since then. And so it's been a huge improvement when you think about what that was. But now it's the fun part, right? We removed the honeysuckle, we opened it up, now we have a blank palette. And so we've been working with some great community engagement, again, with the foundation and the community. We had 2 community engagement sessions, and what we heard is nobody's looking for anything super fancy to change this park. We want to replace nice. We want to repair and extend the loop, the walking loop path at the top. We want to create a more accessible path in. As you know, that's kind of a very steep entry there, even on the farther away side from Glenway. I don't have my cardinal directions there, but on the inner entrance, it's a very steep entrance, and Joel's got some ideas to bring that down and make that more accessible. Maybe we can get to ADA, but at least get it to a much easier way and a much softer slope. And then lastly, the community is interested in lighting to make sure that's a more accessible place, even throughout the winter. Those lights will allow people to feel safer and feel a better sense of community. So those are the 3 kind of projects we have in mind, or 4 projects we have in mind. As you know from last meeting, and as you'll see on our next item, the foundation received a $275,000 grant for this project. Kara, our new grant writer, who was introduced a meeting or 2 ago, is already at it and has found this grant for the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to bring in what we think could be up to $150,000. The way the system works is that the Ohio Department of Natural Resources allocates a certain amount of money to each county. My guess is it probably has something to do with population, but I be honest, I didn't get that. I got a head nod there. And so we'll find out what that is, and then we'll be able to apply for the maximum. We think that's about 150. This is a grant that takes into account good community engagement, which is exactly what we did with this project. Again, a couple different meetings in the community to get good impact or good insight. We did a survey as well. And so we really think we're going to have a good chance at this one. The way the approval documents work is that normally we can just apply for a grant if it's something that you guys have already approved. This is on the plan of work. But for this specific grant, we get additional points if the board passes a specific resolution saying, go forth and apply for this grant. This is the project we want to do, and we're willing to front this is the reimbursable grant. And so while we all know that we have plenty of money in the bank to reimburse $150,000 grant, this makes it clear that the money is set aside to do that, and we will be ready to fulfill that when the time comes. So exciting stuff.
Great. I'm just curious. How are you going to change the slope? How are you going to do that? Are you going to build steps? What are you going to do?
Do you want my honest opinion, Mrs. Castellini?
Yeah.
If you're standing at the fountain, at the top of that existing loop,
Yeah.
and your feet are 6 feet lower than the other end, which is what Jason, every time he goes out there, and essentially there's a wall to get into the park, as you know.
Yeah.
Only way to get in vehicularly wise is up that slope, which is probably a 12 or 13% slope right now. Without taking any of the trees, the good mature trees that are on the slopes, I think we can drop that whole end of the park where the playground is 6 or 7 feet. Take the dirt completely out of it. Use it a couple different places. We're talking big picture dreams right now. We need a whole lot of dirt at Smale. So we're going to do some preliminary engineering investigation to see if that is permeably okay and structurally okay to be utilized as that field for Smale Riverfront Park. So essentially then maybe able to split costs and utilize some of the Smale money that we have under the Army Corps for fill and bring that material down. I haven't investigated 100% the historical drawings, but we don't think that there's anything in there. We think they built that up essentially looking back to the aerial photos from the 1930s. We think they just built all that up for this tank.
Yeah.
To make it the highest point. And when that failed, they just didn't do anything with it. They said, oh, well, here it is, another green space. Parks take care of it, however that went. So we think there's nothing in there that would preclude us from doing this. It's on the end that would be most advantageous to do it. And then at that point, like Jason said, we're going to get really, really close to ADA. That's the goal. If not, we'll do a switchback and get to ADA or some form or fashion, depending on how much funding that we have. But we're going to do it right. That's the way I want to do it. It also allows us to pitch from the playground towards the street so that moms can be on the walking loop and still see their kids. We're not going to plateau the playground.
Right.
That's why I want to do it all at once.
Dads too.
Dads too. You're right. Well, I take dads to the playground as much as Chris does. So that's that's the goal. If we can fund that and make that happen and make all of those pieces move together, that's probably the best case scenario. Jason's rolling his eyes because I'm talking pipe dreams on someone. Gotta dream big and
That's right.
things. So I'm sure we can get there. Some of those things will come to
Well,
fruition.
why spend money unwisely?
That's the best case scenario is that we can utilize that fill somewhere else in the park system. I know I was even talking, got some sinkholes at Mount Airy. It won't take near that much. We have about 5,000 cubic yards of dirt to move if we do that. Just significant, $50,000 to $100,000 placed, moved.
What this resolution says, which I'm not sure is in the packet, but it is in this signature document. It says that the park board agrees to obligate the funds up to $150,000 in park board funds and $275,000 in philanthropic funds. So does that mean we need to approve $150,000 of our funding as a match for this?
We believe that the way the grant reads, this resolution will commit us to that without having to take a separate line item to set the money aside. And then the 275, we're going to accept in a second. And so that will go into, when that transfer actually makes, that will go into a fund for Glenway Park.
I'm not sure if that answered my question. We're fronting the money, but we have to approve that as a board.
And we will when at the time we need to. At this point, what we're saying is we are approving it. We might be back if we find out more about the grant that says we need to have a specific line item. But we believe this language says that we will commit it from our funds and that will lock it in to get us the maximum points needed for the grant.
But do we have to vote to commit that from our funds?
Not right now. We just have to vote for this resolution.
Okay. I'm signing something here that says that we are obligated. So should we obligate them here?
We could. We'd have to identify where they come from specifically, but we have the money available for it.
I think that we should vote in favor of that. If I'm signing something that says we're obligating them, I think we should agree that we're obligating.
Okay.
Or else.
I don't think we have to specifically identify the source of funding at this point, other than that we will. We know we have that funding available from a number of sources.
I'm not sure. I'm not clear on that or not. Is that right?
That was what I was suggesting. I don't know if it's compliant with the, yeah.
I believe that's maybe a better way of saying what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Is that I don't believe that we have to specifically set aside the money now. This project's probably at least a year out, but we could if you want to. We have other sources we can take the money from.
Okay.
We have when we look at the long list of projects, one of the things that we've done in the past is set aside money early for projects that are far out. And then that's what kind of builds up those lines of projects that are funded. So we can do that for sure.
Well, I think that this is an excellent opportunity for us to dedicate $150,000, even if it's via the commissioner fund. Because it's in an effort to match $150,000 that may come in from Ohio. And it's on top of $275,000 in philanthropic dollars. So this is a big impact for this park.
If you're telling me I have that kind of money, Commissioner, we can maybe become less dreams getting that.
You've already got the switchback. Go ahead.
The playground will cost $200,000 to do correctly because we probably won't put any surfacing in it like we did at Lido. It will be chips. So save money, but we'll do really, really nice play equipment. I think that will allow me to at least seriously explore moving that dirt and using it somewhere that makes sense. That's Jason and I talked about that 6 months ago, I think, but this will let me make that more real for sure. So I would rather do it all right at once instead of come back, so certainly lets me plan much more aggressively towards that.
I'll set it to music and sing to ODNR if it'll help advance the cause.
Well, perhaps
Put it in the minutes. It's down. I'm down.
Okay, that's great.
Madam President, perhaps we could entertain a motion, something like the board directs the park staff to set aside $150,000 from existing sources up to including commissioner funds. And then we'll report back on what we do, where we pull that, but.
In that way, you're covered. You're signing something that we've agreed to fund.
Right. I definitely want you all to make that motion because this says that you did. So
Yeah.
I'm reading it clearly.
if I can take a stab at advancing a motion that we will approve the commitment of $150,000 of funds to be identified by staff before the next meeting, that's reasonable. And I don't think that's anything more than that. Does that cover you?
I think so. I'm getting ahead. Yes, so yes.
Great.
We have a second?
Second.
Second, Phyllis. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you.
I had a couple more just.
Yes, I was gonna say, I bounced around. The reason why I bounced around is because you, for the first time, I believe, prepared this nice action agenda.
Yeah.
I was, okay,
Which gets us to the point, but besides that, let's back up a little bit because you had some update items in addition to the approval, so please.
a couple. As you all are aware, and many of you attended, Lytle Park opened a few weeks ago on April 26th. That was awesome. I think everything went well. Jenny was making the bocce ball courts at the last minute to make sure everything was going well, but we were super happy how everything went. Chris is closing out. Yep. Wow.
It's taking ownership, whatever it takes.
Grounds look really good. There's a few minor punch list items to deal with, patches and things in the concrete that we're not quite happy with that we're gonna address in the next couple weeks. I still have some time to do that, and but for the most part, Lytle Park is complete. Just wanted to show you all some really cool pictures. A fun day. One of the other ones that we've been working on for quite a long time, which is nearing completion, are two components at the French house. The house was experiencing a whole lot of rot around some of their wood infrastructure there, but you see now it's back to its former glory. Megan Construction did a phenomenal job overseeing this. If you can impress Chris McGee, you're doing something. He walked in and said, "This place looks good." That's all I heard. So it's really, really good. They did a great job in restoration of the paint, the flashing, all of the rails you're seeing right there. Just some phenomenal work by Megan Construction. I love the blue. That is an homage to 1800s Charleston, where they thought, I think it's Hags and Haints. They thought that the spirits would confuse that for sky and go up to the heavens so that they didn't haunt the homeowners anymore. So that's a homage back to Charleston, 1800s. So that's what your architects are looking into, making sure this is as period perfection as possible. You see some things there. That was the condition after they took the hardware off on one of the windows. Chris took the same picture 2 or 3 different times throughout the process just to show the restoration, but there you see it after the fact, all painted back perfectly with the hardware re-enameled, right? So we're beyond happy with how that turned out. At the same time, you're seeing, bless you. At the same time, you're seeing a hydrant picture, which I threw in there because that's the way engineers think. You see all these cool pictures of a house and then I throw you a hydrant right here. But that's symbolic of the end of fixing a 4-inch brand new water main. So all of that is officially completed at the French house. Restoration was in progress, as you're seeing there. There's still had seating to do, but as of now, that water main project is complete and everything is functional back to the French house. So all is well with French. And the third and final thing I want to bring to your all's attention, because it was on my first day that I had to take my first meeting on this project. International Friendship Park is officially been approved via city manager's office under Bruce. Waterworks is funding that project, but we're moving forward with contract beginnings. Will help them in any way necessary, talking through who's going to report to who on that project, as Waterworks is managing some of that, providing some of the inspection, but certainly myself, Chris McGee, Andrew Campbell will be involved, making sure that they're following all the rules and doing all of the things up to code, and all the concrete is to our liking, all of those kind of things. We anticipate the construction will start, hardscape will start this summer. We hope most of that is going as hard as it can in the next couple months. We know that we will be planting certain things in the spring, no matter what. If they go as hard as they can, there are things we wouldn't touch until the spring, kind of like Lytle. So as aggressively as possible, you're going to be 90% done with this project by this time next year. And then finishing touches like we are right now. But good news is it's under contract. We're working towards it. We have everything ready to go. No permitting is required on this. So we're essentially just waiting for the form of contract, but wanted to make you all aware that that's moving forward. Do you all have any questions on any other projects for me?
That has moved like molasses.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize.
Not to change.
Excuse me, but it really, it kind of
2 years took to.
frustrating.
That's good, 2 years.
Especially when people are coming up to you, why isn't it back like a bus?
Telling them.
Especially when you walk by them
Yeah,
regularly.
yes.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks.
Questions for Joel on any other projects? Questions for Joel?
I have one question about French, the house. Is it getting a lot of use? Is it generating?
I actually drove by there, so I had a community meeting up in Pleasant Ridge that Rocky and I attended 2 or 3 weeks ago, and afterwards I was like, I'm gonna do a quick run through French Park, and it was about 4 o'clock on a Friday, and there were folks out there taking wedding photos. The bride was in her gown. I think they were gonna get married that night. And so it was they kind of were looking at me like, what am I doing driving through the parking lot
Out of our way.
on wedding night? And so I was like, sorry, but it was looking really good, and
So it is.
lots of smiling faces, as there should be on a wedding day, but
A lot of weddings, right?
yep.
Every Friday and Saturday, from May through October. I used to live just around the corner. It's
Yeah,
constant.
good.
One of my best friends lives there and takes his kids there all the time. So I get constant updates about the pluses and the minuses of French Park from my buddy. So I've been hearing good things.
Great, thanks.
Speaking of which, actually, if we're going to talk about French Park, I'm actually meeting our friend from the Inquirer there this afternoon, Patty Newberry, and we're going to meet with some of the, we've heard several times from the Friends of French Park about their invasive species removal. And we're going to meet and talk about kind of our larger invasive species battle that we are undertaking and will be for a long time, and learn about how the community is so valuable in that. So he's been here a couple times to talk about it. He brings his cute little son. And so we're really excited to go walk the trails and talk about, we've talked about the culvert, water main, house, and now we're talking about the trails, and just in that one beautiful park, so many different things happening, but
Trails are great there.
community does a great job. I mean, our team does a great job too, but the community has really helped us take that back. It's a fantastic story. Can't wait to tell it.
We, about 9 months ago, you issued the project plan, which I remember the first time you issued it, I thought, there's no way you're gonna be able to do this much work. But as I've studied it over the past couple of weeks, you're right there. I mean, you're keeping up with what you said you were gonna do and getting in front of it. Jason had mentioned that probably next month we'll see an update to that project plan, so we'll get a little refresh on where things are.
Rocky's team champions that document, and we're meeting next week to update those projects.
Great.
Also, potentially, but not 100%, exploring the idea of giving you an update on that every single month. Because if you look at my report that I write for you all and look at the back of that 3-year plan, essentially 90% of those 30 plan of work projects are what I'm updating you on every month anyway. So as I bring some administrative folks online, I have 2 now that are awesome. That may be something that we can do every single month, should that be what the director and communications folks want to do. So happy to explore all that. Anything we can do to make it closer to a 1-pager, we're going to do.
More time working, less time reporting. I
Yes,
think
absolutely.
an update to that from time to time will be helpful.
Awesome.
We don't want to track you by the week or anything, but I do have one question about things that are upcoming. One thing we said is that we kick off planning for Inwood in the second quarter. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
That we're moving forward with the basket as it is. We kicked that one a couple admittedly, just because of other things that had come up that are priority. We are ready to start at least putting together an RFP for master planning on that. Can be on schedule, it hasn't been a priority for the past few months, Commissioner. So I know the director just talked about doing that basketball court, though, so we're going to move forward with final planning and development of that and getting ready for the master planning.
Very excited about that project. I've been excited about it for about the whole 30 years that I've lived in Cincinnati.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
It's a bigger need now that there's more development, more people are going to live in proximity.
yeah, it's always been a big need, but I think its day is finally here, and I think it's an eyesore and a real embarrassment. And this gives us a great opportunity to put ourselves forward as a park system and as a city to have that very visible park made anew. So excited about Inwood. Great. Anything else, Joel?
Hey, ma'am. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Right, sit right up front here, Joel.
Peace.
All right, I think now we bounced around a bit, but we're ready to talk about
I think
the
next up is,
donations, the grant.
Derek's report.
Oh, Derek's report.
Yep.
Come on up, Derek.
Derek's usually at Civil Service Commission. in these meetings because that happens at the same time. So
Date.
I've been giving this last couple of reports, but
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. Jason did a really good job with sharing some photos of us getting out there, engaging with employees, and I'm actually seeing the residuals of that. Like, they're really happy we're able to kind of assess what their needs are and see how we can provide that either on a personal level or professional level at their job. So it's like the fun part of HR I'm kind of delving into now that we have more staff. Currently, we have 225 employees. As far as full-time, there's 159 of those. I do want to take the time to introduce you to our new computer systems analyst, Clayton Belcher. We're lucky to have him. He'll be helping us with a lot of our customer service, what do you call it? Customer service requests, processing those, and a lot of other activities. I'm sure he can speak to it better. Would you like to?
And the various of the city, like, sorry, used for a very important service. I've enjoyed myself for many years. So it's kind of, it's very cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, super happy to have him.
Welcome, Clayton.
So if you notice, there are a number of positions that kind of says on hold. That does not mean we're on hold. We're just working on doing it right, doing it right. So we're doing a lot of classification reviews, especially with our tree team. And it has to go through civil service, sometimes council. But we are having movement and I'm happy about that, but we're going to be filling them right. Part-time numbers, I'm happy to say we have about a 50% increase in applications. Like always, we have pretty good because of what the CEV team is doing. You'll see our social media. Actually, Clayton told us that he saw our post on Instagram. So it's working. You can see that. But we're either 90 to 100% full on part-time employees on all of our divisions. One division has 85%, but that's the best we've been since I've been here. So I think the marketing that the CEV team is doing, the great work that our managers are doing to get our paperwork to my team, and my team just processing it so quickly has really helped to keep us almost fully staffed.
one position that we're looking for that I guess we've had some trouble filling that I find interesting is our outreach naturalist. So this is a seasonal position, but it's a seasonal position. It's more of a part-time position because it can go year round. It just can't go over the seasonal limit. But it's somebody that would go to events, that would kind of bring nature to events, would talk about kind of the things we're doing in our nature education program, Explore Nature. We go to events and do stuff like that. I guess we've had a couple of people that we got close on, but then they decided for one reason or another not to do it. But it seems like it would be just a really fun job for somebody looking for some part-time to 75% time work. So if anybody knows anybody that would be interested in being a good communicator and a good ambassador to parks to go to events and do stuff, that would be, we're looking for help. So
that's online, like I can go and share that on my social
Yes.
media.
okay.
Yes, and additional marketing is going out for the CEV team to help hopefully attract some good applicants to that position.
I have a yard sign.
It's been our most effective way of getting applicants. We have 5 retirements. Sheila Stunk, who's in our natural resources team, Jennifer Harden, Robin Hunt, all in natural resources. So Bristol is losing some key components to her team, and we're working to get some really good applicants. We're going to be double filling to allow the new people who step into that role to actually sit next to that person, and so they can hit the ground running. Ronald Wilson, who's on the west side, he's on the east side. And we also have Richard Cross, who will be retiring at the end of this month on the west side.
But look at the length of service of these people. This is quite a good statement about parks, that they can keep people for that many years. Obviously, you all do a great job of making these employees feel worthwhile.
Susie, I like the number, so I added it up. It's 149 years, so.
I think
That is amazing.
And we're trying to plan in collaboration with the CEV team to do something special for those individuals, to show our appreciation. So we're trying to have something in place for people who retire so they can have more than just a party of their division.
gold watch shopping. It's the parks version of a gold watch.
That's right, that's right.
And lastly, injury.
Good clap.
Lastly, injury. We have about 12 injuries. I think the last time we had about 3. I came here. Might sound like a lot, but that's not a lot in comparison to the 6 that we average across the city. but we do have our safety committee. My team is doing a really good job of partnering with risk management. They're kind of tag teaming it, where they're coming to our meetings to assess these injuries. What can we do to kind of prevent them in the future? And also, what training do we need to implement to prevent them in the future? I do see us lowering the amount of injuries we have in the future.
Agree.
We've also really improved under Derek's leadership, we've really improved our injury reporting and our collection of facts for that, which is important both for like state regulation rule reasons, but it's also important because the quicker we get that reported to the city's health services, the quicker it gets through for insurance coverage and workers' compensation to make sure that all of those appointments are paid for, lowering the stress on employees as they go through that system. And so Derek, with his additional staff over the last year, has really done a great job of kind of making that flow much better. When I first came in and Derek was still 6 or 7 months in, we had a little bit of a backlog of those reports. And we've really got that cleaned up and that's moving super fast, which again, just is how we can, injuries are going to happen. With the perfect safety committee, there's still going to be accidents that happen on a job like this where you're out and doing this kind of work. But the key thing is that we gather that information quickly, we get it reported, and we support the employee through the whole process. So.
And I think most importantly, employees will feel comfortable with reporting. Their job isn't in danger. We want them to know that we're here to support them and make sure they're protected and taken care of after the injury. You guys have any questions for me here?
Jump in with maybe it's a question or comment dressed up as a question. And that is, I don't want to do anything that even hints of bypassing or disrupting the very important chain of command. But to the extent that we as a body of commissioners can express our gratitude for enormous tenure of tremendous service, I would love to do that. I don't really have a specific idea what that could look like, but if you have an idea of something that we collectively or individually can do, I would be enormously supportive of that, because that's that tenure of service is an enormous asset to and reflection of the system. And I don't think there's anything more important we can do than to support and recognize that team. So
thank you. We'll work on that. I'll definitely get back in.
Derek, what's on your lapel? What is this?
So I found a lot of old park stands for like the butterfly show. This is one of the butterfly shows.
The butterfly show.
Lovely.
Good crowds going there.
It's great.
Don't go unless the sun's out though, because they don't fly when the
I
sun's
sure
out.
don't. Every day I went and
Right.
about 2 of them flying around.
Derek, thank you.
Problem. Thank you. Yes.
Excellent work as always. All right, well, we've got some really big news coming in from the foundation.
Absolutely. So we have a grant application acceptance motion, a report. We're actually going to be applying for 7 grants from the foundation. The top 2 are for reduced fees and scholarships for Explore Nature programming. It's the partnership that happens every year with the foundation to make sure you have access to Explore Nature. Number 3 is $20,000 for a evaporator shed, or what I've been told is called a sugar shack. Little did I know that our esteemed president has a lot of experience with this and had some detailed questions that I had to look into. But the sugar shack is going into California Woods to help kind of with our education program around the creation of syrup from sap, kind of that slow process. Every year we do waffles in the woods in the wintertime, and that's always a great event.
Okay, we have a commissioner that is a maple syrup manufacturer.
Oh, really?
Yes.
manufacturer. Lobbyist, I would say.
So Joel, if we need help in supervising the installation of the sugar shack, we know who to bring out to make sure that the contractors are doing it properly. Number 4 is $10,000 worth of towards tree maintenance at Drake Park. We just planted 40 new trees, and this will cover watering them for the first 6 months of their lives, which is really important to kind of get them established and make sure they grow big and strong. Next up is number 5, and that is the biggie. That is $3.25 million towards the finishing of Lot 23 and the expansion of Spale Park. We've talked about this a lot at many meetings. The THP, which is the architecture contractor on this, are finalizing the construction documents. With this money, along with the $1.5 million that we have in our budget set aside for this project, that brings us to about $4.75 million that we have for this project. Our hope is that we can bid this out July, August, and perhaps get it under construction this fall. which will hopefully allow for, we think this project's kind of an ideal winter build out project for various conditions down there. But depending on stone timelines to get the proper stone cladding, we're hopeful that this project can get going pretty quickly and be underway this winter. So just huge. And again, great thanks to our partners at the foundation for helping us with this one. That's, I know, been a long time coming for a lot of people.
Enormous.
Next up, we have number 6, and that is the Brum Arbor. So we have a very kind donor that, in order to celebrate their mother's birthday, 85 years old, they donated $25,000 to help a project in Alt Park. This will help us restore the Brum Arbor, which is one of the 2 kind of wedding ceremony locations. There's the Rose Arbor and then the Brum Arbor that are on kind of either side of that open lawn at Alt Park. They had experienced some deterioration. The wood was all rotten and terrible, and they had to take the kind of metal, like crown, if you will, there's probably a better word for it, off, and it was just kind of sitting there while they had to reconstruct all that. And then this is also going to allow us to do some repairs to the pillars and redo the brick floor that was in okay shape, but it had a lot of weeds in it and stuff like that. And you know how brick floors get, it was just a little whopper jaw. It had some trip hazards, and we're going to get that repaired as well. So just a really kind donation that's going to help make that a really special place for folks. It was funny because when I went there, I was like, you know what, I think I was like a groomsman in a wedding here. And sure enough, it was one of the spots where I'd been did a wedding like 10 or 12 years ago. And then lastly, we have the $275,000 we talked about already, which is a donation from a foundation through the Parks Foundation that will go towards Glenway Park. So we're going to accept that as well today. It's further documentation for our grant application to maximize our point total. So all told, it is $3,584,000, $3,584,620 of grant requests that we will be making to the foundation with your approval and theirs.
I don't know. What do you all think?
I just have a question, if I may, and it's not I think the lot 23 is a 5-year project of raising that, 5, 6-ish. So,
Thank you, Kathy.
yeah, that was my recollection. So that maybe that wasn't a question, that was just a wow.
It is a wow. This is absolutely outstanding. I mean, we are just so thrilled. I know everyone is to see. I think what is maybe the last major installation for Smale Park, and we've been waiting on this block to be finished, to bring Smale to all its glory that it was envisioned to be. So this is thrilling. In my typical fashion, though, I had mentioned when we had spoken, and I had mentioned to Jason, with this new cladding, you know, as we look at the consistency of appearance of Smale along Marion Way, we may be due for a little cleanup maintenance on the rest of the facility. So I'm hoping that we can ask staff to look at, you know, is it time to do that? Is it something that can be done shortly after installation of this cladding, and also in connection with river routes, really putting our best foot forward.
Yeah, let's scamper
along the river.
Scamper along on this.
Yeah, I think it may be due time.
President, I just talked with Andy this morning, as we did with Washington Park, and we've done with a few other ones. We're gonna do an assessment of the existing granite and everything that we have out throughout the park, by carousel, everything. So that while folks are on site and while we're ordering granite, if there is a maintenance package to come, we can utilize efficiencies and mobilization, get all the stuff at the same time, order the same exact things. So we're putting together a maintenance package for Smale Writing.
2 steps ahead.
It's very timely.
Well done. Congratulations. I know this feels really good for you. It does for us as well. So thank you.
Yes.
Let us not, though, this $3.2 million is significant, but let us not overlook these outstanding contributions that have come through for Glenway. Thank you for your work on that project. Thank you for your work on that project. And then the Brum Arbor. I mean, it's always a delight to be able to honor someone and then to support improvements in the park, whether it be for deferred maintenance or something new. So thrilled.
With that, I would ask for a motion.
Yes. Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Hey.
Aye.
Outstanding.
There you go.
Director, you're on, right?
Well, yeah, thank you. It's really exciting, with the approval of that, and kind of what I just talked about, Smell Lot 23 improvements moving forward. Joel was talking about Tedberry National Friendship Park moving forward. Obviously, we know biochar is moving forward, and we've approved the mechanical engineers for that. And our Sinton project also moving towards construction documents. And so as we think about that 3-year forecast and all of the things that we're closing out, and when we do the update next month, it's pretty exciting that our next 4 kind of major projects are moving forward at pace. And it's really exciting to just have that happening and know that's going on. And it feels really good for the whole team that we know we're kind of advancing the priorities of our board. So exciting
Let's
stuff.
stop you for a minute. Let's talk about biochar for a minute, if we can, and the road situation that was discussed. Would you go into some detail? I thought that road was really important.
It's incredibly important. And we're working with, we actually had I guess you'd call it a pre-development meeting. Did I get that right? Pre-development meeting with all of the permitting authorities in Hamilton County. So since this project is in Springfield Township rather than the city of Cincinnati, we're going to deal with a whole new host of permitting authorities. And the head of kind of permitting, James, anyways, really helpful guy. Organized this meeting with the help of Springfield Township, and we kind of got to meet with environmental services, with water, with stormwater, with buildings, and kind of hear and kind of walk through the project and then get their initial feedbacks. They're like, oh, when you do this, you got to do this, this, and this. When you do this, you got to do this, this, and this. And all that went really well. The plan still, again, pending approval from Springfield Township and these permitting agencies, is to put a road from North Bend that will connect in from the east to from the east, it'll head west to the eastern boundary of Warder Preserve and come in and be that access road, which will then get all of the traffic off of Warder Avenue and away from those homes. Exactly. Not that there'll be a lot of traffic, but there will be increased traffic compared to currently where we have, a smaller team there. And so there's still the expectation to do that. Some early feedback we got just in the pre-development meeting. Joel was asking questions about how much do we have to pave away from the road, and we just have to pave to the end of the right of way, so basically to the sidewalk. So there won't be any pavement that's required. Initial
$100,000 swing.
Yes. Initial concerns from Springfield Township were that gravel could cause a lot of dust, and so to look at other possible road surfaces, and Joel brought up asphalt millings as a really good solution to that. So that will be kind of proceeding down that path to make sure that again, we want to go with the cheapest possible method, but also the method that makes us good neighbors and makes us kind of good partners with Springfield Township. So everything's moving along really well with that.
Good.
But we'll let you know if we hit a roadblock with the road, but our expectation is that we'll be building that road.
Thank you. Thank you.
We don't want to make it complete concrete anyway, Mrs. Castellini, because that then impedes, it changes the permeability of the whole site, and then they're going to make us detain that. So I'm trying to do 2 things. 1, keep the dust down, but 2, not add to our impermeability of the site, because then they will require us to do some sort of retention to offset that. So we're trying to keep our impermeable area very, very low. So negotiating that and what they consider it at what level of impermeability is everything right now. So, but at least we know we don't have to pave. So we're kind of, oh my goodness, we got to pave all the way back. Well, I want to figure this game changer, project changer. We don't want to do that. So I think we're coming to a good place on the road.
So,
Good. Oh, carry on. Excuse me.
no, I'm always happy to. There's so many fun things going on. We can't talk about them all every time. So, but we're always happy to dig into them. But everything's going really well with that. So, it's been a busy month as always. On April 24th, we worked with Councilmember Mika Owens and get City Council to pass a resolution to make April 2024 Native Plant Month in Cincinnati. This is something that's been done at the national level and at the state level, but we'd never declared it Native Plant Month in Cincinnati. So we had a really great event. We brought in some of our volunteers that help us with invasive species removal to really highlight that. You can see Crystal and Garrett, Brendan, a lot of folks on our team that help with that all came down. It was just a really great way to get council excited and kind of declare our values. Last week, we had the Mayor's Corporate Challenge, over 500 volunteers from 20 organizations, 22 sites all throughout the city. And it was last week, and then it was Thursday, Friday, and then I guess there was even something on Tuesday. as we had a whole bunch of stuff. We were joined by the mayor, you see in the upper left, to help plant a tree. They had the tree all kind of set up and he's like, no, I want to dig the hole. So they found him a new spot and he dug the whole hole and got it done. We were joined by Commissioner Lee and Commissioner Nyer. Really great event, as it always is. We were at Ziegler Park to kind of have our official media piece. Next week or in 2 weeks, we'll be presenting our capital budget to City Council as part of the city's budget process. We approved our capital budget request in December. And so it works its way through all of the processes. And my understanding is the city budget's getting released next week. And then we'll present on it the following week to present kind of our capital budget request. We're really excited about that. Because as you know, we spent a lot of time working on that. And as we've just been talking about our 3-year forecast, we're going to be able to show that and kind of how we're planning things. They've also asked us to talk about how we prioritize and plan. So they're very interested as we get ready. So this year will be kind of a mini, what they call the on-track plan. And so that is basically the railroad money, right? Which we all know is. And so this year there'll be a little bit more money, but next year will be the first year we really see the benefits of that sale. After a year of investment, all of that investment gain will be spun off and will really help supersize the city's commitment to capital projects. They've asked us to talk about how do we make those decisions. And we're going to be able to talk through a couple of the different things that we're doing to make those decisions. And so one, as you know, every year we work with the Trust for Public Land to talk about the 10-minute accessibility to green space for our citizens. We always do really well in that. It's like 87% of Cincinnatians within a 10-minute walk of a green space. We've got a really neat map that will show them. I actually showed a couple of you in some of our meetings, and I'm going to send that out to everybody, but it's an interactive map online, but we're going to show them a view of it that shows where in the city we need green space and where there are communities that don't have access to a green space that we should be targeting for future green space. Joel's team, specifically Ian Cummings, is working on a 20-year analysis of our capital spend in parks. And he's going back through all of the old spending we've done to track that by park and therefore by neighborhood or by part of town. So we're going to lay that in and see where historically we've spent money in our parks. I don't think any of us will be surprised with, or we can probably all guess what those results might look like. And then third, we just got back from Joel, Matt DeBona, our other GIS professional, and myself went to New York City for a 3-day conference with the Trust for Public Land as part of their 10-minute walk accelerator program. And so some cities were there to be like, how the heck do you get to 87% of your citizens within a 10-minute walk? We're at 40 and we can't figure it out. We were there to be like, how do you make good, equitable decisions? What factors do you have? What factors do you lay in to say, here are the reasons why we're going to make decisions, and here's the reason where we're going to spend our money and how to direct that money in a way that's equitable across the city. And so lots more to come with that, but we're at least going to talk about kind of the various things we're doing as a team to start to build that decision-making process, and that we'll be using going forward as we spend these rail dollars to make sure that the whole city benefits. And then the thing I'm really excited about is to find out new ways to make parts of the city that don't have enough green space or could use more and more investment to really start to feel that. So it's just a huge opportunity for us. So more to come on that. And then, as always, tons and tons of events. And so we've got DJ Fest coming up on June 1st. It's going to be at Sawyer Point. This happened last year for the first time at the Brady Center and the Icon Music Stage, but we're moving it to Sawyer Point, kind of bringing it fully under totally our control. And the foundation sponsoring that. It's going to be a really exciting event. I've got some DJ friends that are more excited about that than anything I do. Got the All-American Birthday Bash coming Saturday, June 29th at Sawyer Point. Music, food, fireworks. And this year there's going to be a car show during the day. Of course, we've got the Rocking Roebling concert series that it's the Schmidlap Lawn by Moreland Lager House every Thursday night. Starts tonight. We've got the music at the Esplanade, at the Castellini Esplanade. That begins June 1st and runs all the way through August 1st. So that's music on Saturdays, I believe. And then we've got the Amped Up concert series, which is at Sawyer Point on select Fridays and Saturdays, all the way through October 5th. I believe there were a couple of shows during the pickleball concert. I'm getting some head nods back there, or the pickleball concert, pickleball tournament event. So that's all going great. We've got plenty of going on in our neighborhoods. Westwood Town Hall Live, concerts in partnership with the Westwood Business District, taking place May 25th, June 26th, and September 25th. And in fact, this Saturday, Councilmember Mika Owens, we just mentioned, is hosting Social Service Day at the Westwood Town Hall. There's going to be like 20 or 25 teams there, including the Parks team, to kind of bring citizens in and give them a wide array of insight into the different services and things that are available through the city. Wednesdays in Burnett Woods, Wednesdays in the Woods in Burnett Woods begins June 5th and runs from 7 to 9. Free yoga in Olden View Park every Saturday at 9 a.m. The CSO is back to do a performance in Ezra Charles Park on June 23rd, and Hyatt acoustic lunches, which I remember all the way back from my days at City Hall, are returning every Wednesday, starting June 5th and running through August 28th. So, and then also, it wasn't on my list, but I added it to my notes that I somehow have the non-handwritten notes version of this. But the North Side all Rock and Roll Carnival is going to be in Northside Hoffner Park, July 4th, 5th, and 6th, and at the culmination of the Northside Parade, and then it ends at the park for 3 days of music. And what I've told, just an outstanding event that I'm definitely going to hit up this year. So lots and lots happening all throughout Parks.
Excellent.
You want to talk about fireworks?
Sure. There should be a press release coming out sometime today. It was originally going to come out yesterday, but it's coming out later today from Councilmember Walsh's office. Councilmember Walsh is trying to preserve the fireworks in Alt Park. We were asked to put together kind of an analysis of what it would take to do that. We offered 3 different options. One was Parks taking that on permanently and having City Council fund it with some sort of a allocation from the budget. The second was that the community would do the fundraising for the event, and then we would then put it on. And then the third is that some group of citizens would gather to form an Alt Park Fireworks Committee, and that committee would do the planning and organizing of it and raise the money for it. By our analysis, that's the most sustainable way. It is a community event, and the community would then gather together to raise the money and run the event. This year, it's not enough time to make that happen. And so Councilmember Walsh is announcing a fundraising drive to raise the money necessary for Parks to then plan the event. So we're slowly kind of getting the plan together and ready to enact that, assuming fundraising goes well. Once again, our friends at the foundation have agreed to be the home for those dollars. And so all of the contributions can be made to the foundation, and then they would distribute them over to us to pay for the costs of that event. Fireworks, the food trucks, the porta potties, the police detail, all of the various city permit fees that you have to pay. And then, of course, the staff time. If we are planning the event, it takes a lot more staff time to do all of that planning and organizing. And then we'll also have people, we'll have an increased amount of staff on site. If there's not community volunteers to run it, we'll have to have staff there running it. So we've kind of put together a budget for that. And then hopefully they'll be able to raise enough money to make that happen. But we're excited to be a partner and helping to keep this 50+ year tradition alive.
So you want to tell us the bottom line of the budget so that maybe the people out there hear it and know what they need?
Everybody listening, the bottom line for the budget is $32,000 that we need to raise in order to put on the fireworks.
Got it. Thanks.
No problem.
Great. Commissioners, questions, discussion?
Let's make my comments for the mayor's corporate challenge last week. I had a ball. Nice to see a couple of commissioner as well, and I had some time to kill, so I was able to actually bounce around different sites, really get to talk to a lot of the staff who were honestly just jazzed that anybody was just coming to say hi to them, like volunteers as well. Thank you to all of them. I mean, they were sweating, and I was sweating with them. So I mean, again, I feel like we have on a great path with the things and initiatives we have here at Parks. Big reason I'm here because everybody I've come in contact has just been phenomenal, period, in their own way, as well as collectively. So again, just I thank the staff and volunteers as well as my peers.
Okay, well, with that, it's indicated here, our next meeting is June 20th, 9 a.m. And with that, we take a motion to adjourn, is that right?
Yep.
So.